Greetings, ladies and gentlemen and students, and welcome to the Library of Monsters. Today's book is not really going to be a book. Actually, this video is going to be something a bit different than we've done so far. Which is sort of a good thing, because it's been over a year since the last video on this channel. I do feel sorry for that, but like the old saying goes, life gets in the way. Helping out friends in my free time and having a really full work schedule does tend to eat up a lot of time. But I'm here to tell you that I'm going to try and rectify that, and we'll start that with this video. So, that's enough of that fluff. Let's get to what this video is. This is the Kaiju tag video that's been going around YouTube for a while now. It was first started by the channel of Monstrosities. It's basically answering 5 related Kaiju questions, and then in turn asking 4 other YouTubers 5 other different Kaiju related questions. And they in turn do the same thing. So it's like the telephone game, except on steroids. I got tagged by my friend Goji73, so let's get started, shall we? Question number 1. Which scrapped Godzilla, Gamera, Ultraman film would you have liked to have seen being made, and why? I think I'll tackle all 3 of these actually. For the Toho part of the question, I sort of wish that either Mothra vs. Bagan or Godzilla vs. Bagan would have seen the light of day. I sort of really dig that monster's look and size when compared to the other Toho champions. And whether it's a living totem monster that's made up of other monsters, or a giant Chinese-inspired dragon, I personally think that either of them would have made for a decent outing in the franchise. But alas, he shall only live on in the hearts of those devoted kaiju lovers I like to call Baganites. For Gamera, I think Garsharp or the Wyvern would have made for some interesting films. Garsharp only because it's a snake kaiju, an animal that doesn't get a whole lot of love in the Eastern film cinema for some reason. But Korea and the West, yeah, we got a few of those snake movies. Maybe it's a cultural thing. I like its design and the story that went with it. A mother monster that dies for her children, which in turn leaves a moral question of death to the offspring to be given to the film viewers' hearts. But looking at the models, I would imagine the fight to be pretty immobile, much like how a lot of the later Showa films ended up being. And as for the Wyvern, well, it's a 2-headed dragon. Why the hell wouldn't I want to see that? Freaking duh! It would literally be King Ghidorah's cousin. Though, I imagine with Gamera's past at that point, the W monster would have had 2 different breath weapons instead of just one type. Maybe something like fire and ice, acid and whatever else goes with acid, but it would be 2 different types of weapons. I'm not too familiar with the unmade Ultraman films though, but I am familiar with the sequel TV series for Gridman that got axed, Gridman Sigma. Personally, I loved Gridman and thought it was a really good homage to Ultraman. It's just a shame that it didn't shine as much. It would be really neat though if he made a comeback like how Fireman, Jumborgase, and Mirror Man did with their new incarnations of Glenfire, Genbot, and Mirror Knight. Oh well. Question number 2. Which Ultra Monster, or alien, would you like to see be reintroduced? I want to pick one from each if that's okay. 1 Kaiju and 1 Seijin. For the Kaiju, while I do love Geronimon and Kila, I always felt that Black Ant sort of got really shafted in his outing. He is the final monster in the Leo franchise, the end boss. And the only reason on why he pushed Leo back is because Commander Black is holding a kid hostage. That's it. That's not what I call a final boss monster. Jumboard King, Zetan, and Pandan, they were able to push back their heroes to their limits. Those were final boss monsters. And Black King, meanwhile, was barely even able to hold his own. Once the kid was out of harm's way, it was all downhill for that Tuskball monster there. Hell, most of the other Black Star saucer monsters like Silverbloom, Satan Mora, and Demos did better in their fights. Heck, even Hungler took the combined efforts of Leo and his brother Astra to kill him. As for the Seijin, I would like to see Spell, only because I think the tragic story and metaphor of which the alien represents is something truly original and haunting. But I do understand Japan's concern with it. I mean, they survived an H-bomb, and what happened to the survivors of that event is truly disheartening and a black splotch in their history books. So, being more realistic in my choices, I think I would have to go with Alien Benzene from Ultraman Zerth. I like the design and think the alien could easily work pretty well with the other newer Ultra shows. You could do the male or the female one, honestly. And maybe you can work Zerth in there too. Honestly, the guy is like the redheaded stepchild of the Ultra universe. Even Nice gets more respect than him. Question number 3. If you plan on coming to a future G-Fest, which event or contest would you like to take part in the most? I don't really ever plan on going to a G-Fest, to be honest with people here. My work takes up a lot of time, and I feel that I would sort of stick out like a sore thumb there. I'm in my mid-30s, and don't really know anyone there. So, couple that with the expenses of actually attending one, makes it sort of a real improbability for me. But, if I were to go, I would actually try and go for the costume event. I got some sewing skills and do understand the basics behind your average cosplay. Question number 4. Which kaiju film is a guilty pleasure for you? That's an easy one for me. The Giant Claw. I mean, that's if you're going by the strict definition of kaiju, meaning strange beast, and not by the country of origin that the movie was filmed. I honestly love that bird. Yeah, it's goofy, but I like its heckling like roar, and there's some good effects in the movie. Well, I do like it when you see the bird in the building, with its arms outstretched. Shame we really didn't get a whole lot of more scenes like that. But the movie has an interesting origin for the monster, and it's pretty well acted for the most part. I mean, Jeff Morrow always gave a good performance in anything he did. And at 72 minutes, it's a brisk and easy to digest movie. I saw the monster as a kid, so I knew its existence way before the nerd ever brought him to the internet culture. But I'm sorta glad he did. Now more people know about the monster, thanks to him. And for the final question, question number 5. Which other kaiju series would you like to see have a crossover, and which other series would you like to have a crossover into? Note, other series does not have to be Toku related only. Okay, I have a few ideas for this one, but for the time's sake, I'll only elaborate just on one. And you'll have to pardon the very fan-fiction-y way the story comes off. I mean, I could say Godzilla and Gamera crossover, but that's too boring of an answer. I've actually wanted to see more horror-related crossovers with kaiju stuff. What I mean is something like with the Phantasm series. I sort of always kicked around the idea that the tall man would go to Brazil or some other South American country and use a shell company to build 2 massive city towers. See, in my mind, he's getting a bit more desperate on time, and robbing one graveyard at a time isn't really cutting it anymore. He needs more dead bodies. The towers are actually massive versions of the dimensional rods that act as gateways from the tall man's world to ours. From that, he would bring a massive creature, Deathla or Dogalos. Both of these are unused Godzilla monsters. Both of these also have designs and abilities that would mimic the style of life forms that would come from the tall man's world. So basically in the story, you got Reggie, the hero of the Phantasm series, with some Japanese Interpol agents fighting against the tall man and his, balls, I guess. And then you would have Godzilla lumbered around in the movie, and around the 3/4 mark, you'll have the battle with the extra-dimensional monster. So, combining my favorite horror series with my favorite giant monster, yeah, I don't know. That's a no-brainer for me. And with that kooky answer, that finishes off these 5 questions. Sorry if I rambled on a bit with some, but that's how I roll. Now, I really don't know a whole lot of older kaiju YouTubers at all. I actually keep my circle of friends kinda close. Most kaiju YouTubers on this platform seem to be very young and have that, leafy mentality to them. But nevertheless, I do have a few folks that I can tag. So, for the people I actually know, I'll have to say Inshoma and Brandon Tenold. For the other 2 kaiju YouTubers who will probably never see this video and have no idea who I am, Monster Island Buddies and Wikizilla. So, your questions will be as followed. Number 1. What was your first kaiju film you ever saw? Number 2. What was the first piece of kaiju merchandise that you ever owned? Like a toy, VHS, poster, keychain, or other whatnot. Number 3. What are your hopes for the Godzilla King of the Monsters American sequel? Number 4. If you had the money or clout with Toho, what sort of kaiju film would you try to get made? What is your fanfiction idea brought to life? And number 5. What underrated kaiju do you really like that seems to get overlooked by everyone in the fandom? So, that's your questions, guys. Now, I got some free time coming up and some scripts to finish, so hopefully it won't be that long to my next video. Till then, this non-book is finished and the library is closed. Have fun, stay safe, and I'll catch you on the flip side.